I grip my water glass tighter, knuckles whitening as Marissa's words hang in the air between us. "So next week I'll be moving into your place," she says with a casual smile, as if announcing she's switching to almond milk or taking up jogging, just until I figure things out. The champagne pops open beside me, my father beaming as he pours the bubbling liquid into crystal flutes I've never seen before. My mother's china, the set she saves for Thanksgiving and Christmas, gleams under the chandelier light. The table arrangement should have been my first clue. Something was happening. Marissa seated at the head of the table. The formal settings, the champagne chilling. This isn't Sunday dinner. It's an ambush. "I've already started packing," Marissa continues, accepting a flute from Dad with a gracious nod. "It shouldn't take more than a day to get everything moved in." My parents exchange pleased glances across the table, nodding along as if this is the most reasonable plan in the world. As if my consent is merely a formality, already given. "To new beginnings," my father says, raising his glass. Everyone lifts theirs in response. Everyone except me. The garage boxes make sense now. 3 days ago, I'd found them stacked against the wall, oversized plastic tubs labeled Marissa's winter clothes and Marissa's books. When I texted her about them, she'd brushed it off. "Just temporary storage," she said. Just until she found more space in her apartment. I should have known. Just like I should have known what it meant when I confronted my parents about paying Marissa's rent for the 3rd time this year. "She's going through a rough patch," Mom had said, waving away my concerns. "That's what family does, we help each other." I hear my mother's voice from last week, the phone call I wasn't supposed to overhear while waiting in her kitchen. "Eden is so lonely in that big house," she'd told Aunt Sarah. "She needs her sister's company. It's perfect timing, really. Perfect timing. As if my life exists solely to accommodate Marissa's latest crisis." I set my water glass down carefully, reaching for my purse on the floor beside me. The trembling in my hands has nothing to do with nervousness and everything to do with fury. "Why do you look so serious?" Marissa laughs, her eyes darting briefly to our parents. "This is good news for both of us. You get company, and I get to save on rent for a while." My fingers closed around the manila envelope I'd brought, the one I'd almost left in the car, thinking tonight wasn't the right time. But there is no right time with my family. There is only their time, their plans, their expectations. The tremor in my hand steadies as I place the envelope on the table. "Actually," I say, my voice calmer than I feel, "I have news too." My parents' expressions shift instantly. My mother's smile falters, eyes narrowing slightly. My father lowers his champagne glass, forehead creasing with concern. The change is subtle but unmistakable, the united front forming against the daughter who isn't following the script. "What kind of news?" My mother's tone carries a warning. "Don't ruin this. Don't be difficult." I feel the weight of the familiar labels hovering in the air. Selfish, difficult, uncaring. The stakes of defiance are clear. Disagree and become the family villain. Again. Looking at their expectant faces, I realize this pattern has defined my entire life. Marissa takes. I give. My parents enforce the transaction. The roles never change. The lines never shift. Until now. I place the manila envelope in the center of the table, my fingers lingering on the edge. The room falls silent, my family's anticipation hanging heavy in the air. "What's that?" My mother's voice carries a hint of irritation, as if my interruption is derailing an already settled plan. "This," I say, carefully withdrawing the papers inside, "is the sale agreement for my house. I sold it last week. I have 30 days left before I move." The silence that follows is absolute. Marissa's champagne glass slips from her fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. No one moves to clean it up. My father's mouth opens and closes like a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. "You what?" Marissa finally whispers. I flip through my phone, pulling up the Pinterest board I discovered this morning. Interesting timing, isn't it? While you were planning to move in, Mom and Aunt Sarah were already designing your future bedroom in my house. I turn the screen toward them, displaying their meticulous board labeled Marissa's new room. My throat tightens as I watch recognition flash across their faces. 9 years of saving every possible penny, working overtime, sacrificing vacations and new clothes, all to afford that house, my dream home. And to them, it was just another resource to be redirected to Marissa. My father stands abruptly, towering over me. "You can just cancel the sale," he says, waving his hand dismissively. "These things have cooling off periods." My mother rises too, resting her hand on his arm. Eden, we already promised Marissa she could stay as long as she needed. You can't possibly expect her to find a place in 30 days. Actually, Aunt Sarah pipes up from the end of the table. We were going to move most of her things next Tuesday while you were at work, just to make it easier for everyone. The coordinated betrayal steals my breath. I glance at Dorothy, my mother's oldest friend, sitting uncomfortably beside Aunt Sarah. She stares fixedly at her plate, avoiding eye contact with everyone. You can't do this, my father says, his voice hardening. What about your property taxes coming due? You know I always help with those. The implied threat isn't subtle. His one annual contribution to my finances dangled now as leverage. Eden, my mother says softly, her voice taking on the concerned tone she uses when discussing unstable people. I'm worried about you. This kind of impulsive decision-making isn't like you. Are you feeling all right? Have you been taking care of yourself? I recognize the strategy immediately. If not compliant, then possibly unwell. It's a familiar path in our family dynamic, one that's kept me in line for years. You did this on purpose, Marissa accuses, tears streaming down her face. You found out I needed a place to stay and sold your house just to spite me. The accusation lands like a physical blow. This is how it always goes. My boundaries recast as cruelty, my self-preservation painted as selfishness. For a moment, I consider explaining the truth. The catastrophic roof replacement that drained my savings, the water line break, the heating system failure, the mounting financial pressure that made selling not just advisable but necessary. But what would be the point? They've already cast me as the villain in this family drama. Why give them more ammunition? I made this decision for my own reasons, I say instead, keeping my voice steady. And it's final. So you're just going to leave your sister homeless? My mother's voice rises. After everything we've done for you? The familiar weight of guilt settles on my shoulders. Everything they've done for me. The invisible ledger of family obligation that only ever seems to accumulate in one direction. Marissa isn't homeless, I point out. She has an apartment, and if that doesn't work, she has your spare bedroom. That's not the point, my father interjects. Family helps family. Period. Anyone. The unspoken remainder of that sentence hangs in the air, and you're not being family. I think, I say carefully, gathering the sale papers back into the envelope, that we have different definitions of help. Under the table, I feel a gentle squeeze on my hand. Dorothy, still avoiding eye contact with everyone else, whispers so quietly I almost miss it. Good for you. It's a small validation, but in this moment, it feels monumental. One person in this room doesn't see me as selfish or cruel for protecting myself. As I sit there with my family's accusations hanging in the air, I wonder whether I should explain the financial struggles that forced me to sell my beloved home, or simply hold firm without justifying my decision. Would sharing my vulnerability help them understand, or just give them new ammunition to use against me? The first call comes Tuesday morning while I'm fixing my coffee. Aunt Sarah's name flashes on my phone screen, unusual for a weekday before 9. Eden, honey, I just talked to your mother. Her voice carries that particular tone, the one reserved for funerals and family scandals. Is it true you sold your house just to keep Marissa from staying with you? My coffee sloshes over the rim of my mug, scalding my fingers. What? Marissa called me in tears last night, said you sold your beautiful home out of spite, knowing she needed a place to stay. The burning on my hand fades as a different heat rises in my chest. That's not what happened. Your sister will be homeless, Eden. I never thought you could be so cruel. The calls continue all day. Uncle Robert, Cousin Jennifer, even my father's golf buddy Chuck, whose connection to this situation escapes me entirely. Each conversation follows the same script. Marissa's desperate situation, my apparent heartlessness, their profound disappointment in me. While preparing dinner, I make the mistake of checking Facebook. Marissa's latest post appears at the top of my feed. The hardest lesson in life is learning who truly has your back when times get tough. Family should be forever, not just when it's convenient. 27 sympathetic comments follow, including one from Mom. We're here for you, sweetheart. Always. The knife in my hand chops carrots with increasing force. The final blow comes Thursday, when my colleague Lisa stops by my desk, her expression pinched with concern. I ran into your sister at Starbucks this morning, she says, lowering her voice. She told me about the house situation. If you need help finding her temporary housing, my church has a program. The carrot pieces on my cutting board splinter under the blade. What exactly did Marissa tell you? Lisa shifts uncomfortably. Just that she's facing homelessness because of some sudden decision you made. She seemed really upset. My jaw tightens so hard it aches. Thanks for your concern, Lisa. But Marissa isn't homeless. She has an apartment, and parents with a 4-bedroom house. After Lisa leaves, I lock myself in the bathroom stall, hands trembling as I text my sister. Stop telling people I'm making you homeless. It's a lie and you know it. Her response arrives instantly. You're selling the house I was counting on. What would you call it? The roof replacement came first, $11,000 I hadn't budgeted for, when the March storms revealed leaks in 3 different rooms. I emptied my vacation fund and took a small loan, telling myself it was a one-time emergency. Then the water line broke in April, $8,200 for emergency repairs and landscape restoration. I canceled plans to visit my college roommate in Arizona, picked up weekend marketing work for a local realtor, and ate ramen for dinner more nights than I care to admit. The heating system failure in June was the final blow, $5,000 I simply didn't have. Each night after work, I'd sit at my kitchen table, surrounded by spreadsheets and bank statements, calculating and recalculating figures that refused to balance. The crying started around then. Silent tears that came only after midnight, when I was certain no neighbors walking dogs might glance through my windows and see the truth that the woman they waved to each morning, the one who always appeared composed and capable, was falling apart behind closed doors. My reflection in the bathroom mirror each morning reveals the caustic dark hollows beneath my eyes that concealer can't quite hide, collarbones more pronounced against my blouses. When my pants began slipping at the waist, I punched new holes in my belt, rather than buy smaller sizes. Temporary situation, temporary solution. While maintaining this facade, I pack my home each evening. 9 years of memories sorted into keep, donate, and trash. Books that once lined entire walls now fill boxes stacked in corners. The wedding photos of friends, the graduation pictures of cousins, the vacation snapshots all bubble-wrapped and nestled in containers labeled with blue marker. Through it all, I document everything. Bank statements in chronological order. House repair invoices filed by date and category. Text messages screenshot and saved. A fortress of paper proof against the siege of family fiction. While packing my office bookshelf, I find it a framed photo I'd almost forgotten. Me, standing on the front porch of this house, the day I signed the mortgage papers, keys clutched in my hand, smile threatening to split my face. The realtor had taken it as a surprise, catching the exact moment I realized I'd actually done it, purchased a home entirely on my own. I traced the frame's edge, remembering that feeling. Pride without a hint of apology. Accomplishment without anyone else's approval attached. I place it carefully atop the nearest keep box, this tangible reminder of what I built and what no one can diminish. The doorbell rings Saturday afternoon, while I'm wrapping dishes in newspaper. Through the front window, I spot my parents' Buick in the driveway, Marissa's red compact behind it. No warning text, no courtesy call. I consider not answering, but the knocking grows more insistent. When I open the door, they file in like funeral directors, solemn, judgmental, prepared to manage a difficult situation. Mom spots the boxes immediately. You're really going through with this madness. I fold the newspaper around another plate, securing it with tape. The closing is in 3 weeks. Your sister needs you. Mom's voice rises slightly. You've always been selfish, but this is beyond understanding. Your sister needs you. The plate in my hands remains steady, though something shifts inside me. I've spent my entire life being told what Marissa needs. The words emerge calmer than I feel. Did anyone ever ask what I need? Dad clears his throat. Eden, be reasonable. I need financial stability. I need to sleep at night without panic attacks about bills. I need to not drain my retirement fund for house repairs I can't afford. I continue wrapping dishes methodically. Unlike past confrontations, I don't stop what I'm doing to give them my full attention. I don't offer beverages or comfortable seats. I continue my work while they stand awkwardly in my half-packed kitchen. We're your family, Mom says, voice wavering between anger and disbelief. Yes, you are. And I've never once asked you for money. Not for college, not for my first apartment, not for this house, and not for the repairs that drained my savings. For once, they have no immediate response. Marissa stares at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. Dad examines the ceiling as if architectural features have suddenly become fascinating. I realize with startling clarity that I no longer need their approval or understanding. The constant ache for validation I've carried since childhood has quieted, replaced by something sturdier. When I stand to reach for another stack of plates, I notice my posture has changed. Shoulders back, spine straight, eyes level with theirs instead of downcast as usual. The physical manifestation of an internal shift. Dorothy arrives that evening with Thai food and 2 bottles of wine. She helps me pack photo albums while sharing stories of her own sister, the one who didn't speak to her for 3 years after Dorothy refused to co-sign a loan. Family patterns are the hardest to break, she says, carefully wrapping a crystal vase my grandmother left me. But sometimes breaking them is the only way forward. Monday brings an unexpected text from my colleague Thomas. Need help moving? Got a truck and strong back. Family often sees us least clearly. Just say when. That afternoon, Barbara, my financial advisor, emails confirmation of my townhouse application approval. Based on your financials, this move reduces your housing costs by 42%. The right decision for your long-term security. Call if you need anything else. The contrast strikes me as I review these messages over dinner. These people ask what I need, rather than telling me what to give. They offer specific help instead of vague demands. That night, I spread my financial documents across the dining room table: bank statements, repair invoices, property tax assessments, retirement account withdrawals. Everything meticulously organized, the complete picture of my financial reality. Tomorrow's family meeting won't be an intervention for me, but a reckoning with facts they've chosen to ignore. My one advantage remains unspoken. The sales agreement includes a 30-day rent-back clause. For a month after closing, I can stay in the house while finalizing my townhouse purchase. Breathing room they don't know I have. At exactly 7 o'clock Tuesday evening, the doorbell rings. When I open it, I find not just my parents and Marissa on the porch, but Aunt Sarah, Uncle Robert, and my cousin Jennifer, standing behind them, a family firing squad assembled for execution. I stand at the head of my dining room table, a position that feels foreign yet right. The manila folder in my hands holds every financial statement, every bill, every painful reminder of why I had to sell my home. My fingers no longer tremble as I open it. Before anyone says another word, I need you all to see something. My voice carries a steadiness I don't entirely recognize. The family gathering looks larger than I anticipated. My parents, Marissa, Uncle William, Aunt Sarah, and my support team, Dorothy, Barbara, and Thomas. I lay out the documents methodically, arranging them in chronological order: bank statements, emergency fund withdrawals, contractor invoices. Each paper tells part of the story I've kept hidden. This is the roof replacement from last spring. I slide the $11,200 invoice toward the center where everyone can see it. The 30-year shingles only lasted 22. Insurance covered nothing. Uncle William adjusts his glasses, leaning forward with a frown that cuts deep lines across his forehead. Waterline repair, $8,200. Another paper joins the first. When the city updated the main line, it revealed my connection was deteriorating. No warning, no payment plan offered. NES. My mother shifts in her seat but remains uncharacteristically silent. Heating system replacement, $5,000. The third major bill completes my trinity of home ownership nightmares. The energy efficiency rebate covered barely a quarter of the cost. I maintain direct eye contact as I speak, something I rarely managed in family confrontations before. Barbara nods almost imperceptibly from her seat near the window, encouraging me to continue. My emergency fund is gone. I place my bank statement on top, the balance painfully clear. My financial advisor recommended selling while the market is still hot rather than risking a forced sale later when I might be underwater. Marissa's chair scrapes against the hardwood as she stands abruptly. This is creative accounting, Eden. You've always been good with numbers when it suits you. Her voice carries the familiar accusatory edge. You're just trying to avoid your family responsibilities. Uncle William, whose judgment I've feared since childhood, surprises me by turning toward my sister. Marissa, what's your current employment situation? Last I heard you were between jobs. The unexpected redirection leaves Marissa fumbling. I'm exploring opportunities. The job market is complicated right now. My mother jumps in. William, This isn't about employment. Family duty exists regardless of finances. Eden has always had that beautiful house with all that extra space. Speaking of space, Aunt Sarah interjects, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she examines my heating bill. Why can't Marissa stay with you and Roger? You have that guest room you just redecorated. The conversation shifts like a current, pulling away from me and swirling around the room as family members begin questioning the arrangement I've endured my entire adult life. Dorothy clears her throat. I've known this family for 20 years. Eden bought her house without any family financial support. Meanwhile, I've watched Marissa receive help with rent, car payments, and credit card bills repeatedly. Her voice carries the weight of long observation. The pattern has been clear to everyone except those closest to it. Barbara straightens her blazer before speaking. As Eden's financial advisor, I can tell you that enabling financial dependency ultimately harms both parties. The one giving depletes their resources, while the receiver never develops crucial life skills. Thomas, sitting quietly until now, leans forward. My brother lived with my parents until he was 42. They paid his bills, made his appointments, solved his problems. When they passed, he had no idea how to function. He lost their house within a year because he never learned to manage money. He glances at my parents. Sometimes the most loving thing is to stop rescuing someone. The room falls unusually quiet as these outside perspectives penetrate the family mythology we've operated under for decades. Uncle William breaks the silence. Eden, why didn't you share these financial struggles sooner? I hesitate, the question catching me off guard. Should I maintain the privacy and independence that had served as my armor for years? Or would opening up to select family members create the support system I never thought possible? Before I can answer, my father shifts in his chair, eyes fixed on the hardwood floor. It's the first time I can remember him sitting through a family discussion without dominating it. My mother's rigid posture gradually softens, her hands now resting open on the table instead of clenched in her lap. Marissa stands suddenly, grabbing her purse. This is ridiculous. You're all acting like I'm some kind of parasite. Eden has always been the golden child with her perfect house and perfect job, while everyone ignores how hard things have been for me. When no one jumps to her defense, she storms toward the door. The slam echoes through the house as she leaves. Uncle William waits for the reverberations to fade before speaking again. I think it's time we had a family financial planning session, for everyone. He looks pointedly toward my parents, including Marissa. My mother's eyes glisten with unshed tears, but for once, they're not being weaponized against me. My father reaches for her hand across the table, his face unreadable, but his silence speaking volumes. For the first time in a family confrontation, I'm not the one left feeling like I've done something wrong. I arrange the last of my kitchen glasses into a box, wrapping each one in newspaper with methodical precision. My final week into my 30-day countdown, and the house already feels hollow, memories peeling away with each item packed. The doorbell rings. I check my watch right on time. My parents are nothing if not punctual when they have an agenda. I open the door to find not just my parents but Marissa too, standing on my porch like a united front. My mother clutches her purse with white knuckles. My father's smile appears rehearsed. Eden, honey, my mother says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. We've been talking, and we think we've found the perfect solution. A compromise, my father adds, his voice carrying that false cheerfulness he reserves for difficult conversations. Marissa follows them in, her eyes darting around my half-packed living room before settling on me with a practiced look of gratitude. I really appreciate you hearing us out. They arrange themselves on my couch, the only piece of furniture not yet wrapped in moving blankets, while I remain standing. The power dynamic isn't lost on me. We know selling the house is your decision. My mother begins, punctuating her words with a nervous laugh. But instead of Marissa moving in with you, what if you helped her get her own place? My father nods enthusiastically, while carefully avoiding any mention of actual numbers. Just a loan to get her started. With your success, it would hardly affect you. Unlike me, Marissa interjects, her voice soft and rehearsed. Some people just have bad luck, you know? The implication hangs heavy in the air between us. You're successful. She's struggling. You owe her this. My mother leans forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Eden, the family has always stuck together. If you can't help your sister just this once. She trails off, the threat clear. Cut Marissa off, and I cut myself off from the family. I walk to the dining room table where I've laid out several documents. They watch me, confusion replacing their certainty. I'm meeting with my lender tomorrow, I say, picking up a pre-approval letter. For a townhouse downtown, the monthly payment will be nearly 40% less than my current mortgage. I hand the letter to my father, whose eyes widen at the numbers. Selling this house isn't just about Marissa. It's about rebuilding my emergency savings after 3 major home repairs drained them. It's about reducing my financial stress. I take a deep breath. It's about finally prioritizing my financial health. My mother starts to speak, but I hold up my hand. I can't support Marissa financially, I continue, but I can help her support herself. I pull a business card from my pocket and hold it out to Marissa. She stares at it without taking it. Our marketing department has an entry-level position opening next week. The starting salary would cover rent on a 1-bedroom apartment. I spoke to HR yesterday, and they'd be willing to interview you. Marissa's mouth opens, then closes. For once, she seems genuinely speechless. This isn't charity, I add. It's an opportunity. Whether you take it is your choice. My father stands abruptly, moving toward the window where bare hooks show where family photos once hung. Eden, be reasonable. Marissa needs... No, I interrupt, walking to the coffee table where I've placed a manila folder. This is what being reasonable looks like. I am C of no. I open the folder and pull out a spreadsheet, placing it on the table between us. The itemized list contains every financial gift my parents have given Marissa over the past 5 years. Car payments, rent supplements, credit card bailouts. The total at the bottom, circled in bright red, makes my mother gasp. I compiled this from the conversations you've had in front of me. I suspect the actual total is higher. My father picks up the paper, his forehead creasing as he studies the numbers. This isn't love, I say quietly. It's dependence, and it's hurting both of you. My father opens his mouth to object, then falls silent, his eyes fixed on the spreadsheet. We just wanted to help her, my mother whispers, tears welling in her eyes. The best help is teaching someone to stand on their own, I reply, my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. You taught me that once, remember? When I wanted to quit college because it was too hard? The memory hangs between us, my father refusing to let me move back home, when calculus overwhelmed me, insisting I find a tutor instead. We're doing you no favors by making life too easy, he'd said then. Strange how principles change when applied to different daughters. The silence stretches, broken only by the sound of packing tape from the box I'd abandoned when they arrived. Finally, my father puts his arm around my mother's shoulders. We should go, he says quietly. They walk to the door, my mother not quite meeting my eyes. Marissa hesitates, looking back at the business card still in my hand. I don't need your charity job, she says, but there's less conviction in her voice than usual. I place the card on the entryway table. It's not charity, it's opportunity. She turns away, but as she follows my parents out, I catch her slip the card into her purse when she thinks I'm not looking. The door closes behind them. I stand in my half-empty living room, listening to their car start and pull away. The silence feels different now, not hollow, but open, expansive. I sink onto the couch, running my hand over the familiar fabric. Tomorrow it goes into storage until I move into the townhouse. 9 years of memories in this house, and now an uncertain future lies ahead. I feel both liberated and isolated, triumphant and alone. The family dinner next month looms in my mind. Will they even still want me there? Has this confrontation permanently altered our relationships? The answering machine light blinks with 3 new messages. Probably more relatives calling to weigh in. I ignore it, focusing instead on the business card Marissa took. One small step. Perhaps the first of many. I stand in the center of my downtown loft, savoring the space around me. Sunlight streams through the industrial windows, warming the hardwood floors beneath my bare feet. 3 months ago, this place felt foreign, a compromise rather than a choice. Now it feels like the home I never knew I needed. Another box checked off the budget, I tell myself, updating my financial tracking app. My mortgage payment appears in green, a full 30% less than what I paid for the Craftsman. Barbara's weekly check-ins have transformed what was once my greatest source of anxiety into a structured ritual I actually look forward to. The kitchen island holds my newest purchase, a professional-grade camera that would have remained a distant wish in my old financial reality. My first photography class starts tomorrow evening, the course catalog still open on my tablet. I run my fingers over the camera's textured grip, permission to create rather than just survive. My phone buzzes with a reminder. Sunday dinner at my parents'. I feel the familiar tightening in my shoulders, then consciously release it. These dinners have changed, just as I have. Later, I step through my parents' front door carrying a bottle of wine, rather than my usual tension headache. Dad greets me with a hug that feels genuine instead of perfunctory. "Eden, come see what your sister brought," he says, his voice carrying none of the comparative undertones that once filled our interactions. In the dining room, Marissa arranges flowers in a simple vase. She looks up, her smile reaching her eyes. "They gave me my first business cards today," she says, pulling one from her pocket. "Assistant marketing coordinator. Sounds fancy for someone who mostly makes coffee runs, but I'm learning so much." She hands me the card proudly, without the defensive edge that once colored her accomplishments. My mother appears in the doorway, carrying a casserole that isn't placed strategically closer to Marissa's place setting. "Tell us more about the social media campaign you mentioned last week," Mom says, looking directly at Marissa. Then she turns to me. "And Eden, how was your photography class?" I blink, still adjusting to the novelty of balanced attention. As we eat, I notice my father asking thoughtful questions of both daughters, not just fawning over Marissa's every word. 1 week later, laughter fills my loft as Dorothy raises her glass. To homes that shelter us and boundaries that protect us, she toasts. Around my coffee table sit Thomas, Barbara, Uncle William, and me, my chosen family, alongside the blood relative who surprised me most. Dorothy presents me with a frame containing 2 photos, me signing my original mortgage papers 9 years ago, and me holding the keys to this townhouse. 2 brave beginnings, she says softly. 2 very different women, I add, recognizing how much I've changed. The following weekend finds Marissa and me at my kitchen table, surrounded by spreadsheets and calculator apps. "So if I put away 15% of each paycheck, I could have first and last month's rent by January," she says, chewing her lip as she runs the numbers again. Our parents sit on my sofa, watching this scene with a mix of pride and regret. "We should have done this years ago," Mom admits quietly. "We thought we were helping, but we were hurting both of you in different ways." Dad nods, his eyes revealing the difficult journey of unlearning decades of enabling behavior. As I watch Marissa calculate her budget with determination I'd never seen before, I wonder about the fine line between helping and enabling those we love. Is it ever possible to find the perfect balance between supporting family and maintaining healthy boundaries? Or must we sometimes allow others to struggle so they can truly grow?